right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective freedom. All right, I've been trying to reduce that terminology or that motto. So, your daily dose of freedom. All right, guys, so subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Guys, there's a lot of things that I want to there's a headlines that I'm going to get to as usual. But one topic that I want to get back to, I touched on it last week, but I really want to touch on it a little more deeply today. And that is the black privilege that we saw last week with this Fani Willis case. So we'll get into that. Also, the left-wing media is in an outrage over former President Donald Trump using the term bloodbath at a rally when using it out of context when he was talking about EVs. And guys, listen, I got to tell you, I don't want to spend tons of time on this. Because this is what the left is going to try to do every week. But at the same token, I feel compelled to defend it because this is what the left is going to do every week. So I know that those of you that are in the listening audience know exactly what the left is trying to do. The goal is to make sure that that everything is a distraction, right? You talk about you talk about something Trump said instead of focusing on the fact that Joe Biden's poll numbers are tanking, on the fact that the economy and is not in great shape, the crime and racial relations, all of these types of things, the rule of law are in disarray under the Biden administration. Frankly, I do believe the more the left goes after Trump, even though they want to try and distract from Joe Biden, I think it brings one issue front and center, which I think is a good thing. And it's horrible for Democrats. And I don't even think they realize, actually, I know they don't realize they're doing it. They keep bringing this issue, in my opinion, of the lawlessness of the left into the forefront. I mean, they really do, whether they want to or not. I mean, constantly going after Trump when everybody, for the most part, has figured out that, all right, this guy is they're going overboard with these political persecutions or what have you. So the more they come up with stuff every single week, I think the more people actually start paying attention to the persecutions of the former president and say, whoa, wait a minute, this is insane. I mean, it's just going crazy. So this stuff is going to ultimately bite them in the butt. Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, obviously, of Israel, speaks up or pushes back against Chuck Schumer that gave a ridiculous speech on the Senate floor, basically trying to interfere in Israel's election. They are a democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East. Why would Schumer do that? It was a foolish move. It's backfired on Senator Schumer and the Democrats. And quite frankly, Schumer is a complete and utter disgrace. We have audio and video from that that we'll get to as well. And again, plenty of headlines. But let me start with this Fani Willis thing, and I'll just update you. This was a column from the Federalist. Judge lets Fani Willis continue Trump case despite cloud of impropriety and potential untruthfulness. Guys, let me say this. Until the right, until conservatives, until Republicans, until libertarians, and obviously any of this stuff can get out of hand, right? The pendulum could swing way too far in either direction. But let me say this. Until the right is willing to speak up about the black privilege that now exists inside of the United States of America, we will never, ever have equality in the justice system anymore. We won't. The defund the police movement is going to continue to haunt our major cities and cities that are run by Democrats across this nation until we start speaking up and putting these people on blast. Listen, it is one thing for any criminal, black, Latino, and otherwise. And I'm sorry, I know there's this narrative that blacks are sent to, X amount longer sentences for the same crimes committed by whites and Latinos. And it's simply not true when you look into the facts. There's certain races, ironically, that commit different types of crimes more frequently. And sadly, because there's a lack of fathers inside of black homes, unfortunately, you have a lot of young black men that seem to commit, the ones that are caught up in the juvenile system into jail and prison and so on, etc., tend to commit some of the same crimes over and over and over and over again, and they rack up points. So if you get a black dude sitting in front of a judge that has a, let's say he has a little marijuana charge, because you'll get Snoop Dogg and other people saying that blacks are sent to prison for, X amount of years for smoking weed. It's complete nonsense. But and I'll break that down in a second. And you'll get all right. So a black dude and a white dude sitting next to each other. Let's say the white dude has one offense or two offenses. You have a black dude that has the same amount of offenses as a white dude, plus he's been caught, I don't know, selling drugs somewhere else or whatever, this and that. The person with the most points will get the most time. All right. So if the black young man has been in the courtroom or in jail or arrested more than the white dude, he'll get the most time. And unfortunately, when you look at the stats, that's typically what happens. And then you got numbskulls on both the left and the right, frankly, that will argue this argument. No one should be going to jail or prison just for marijuana. They go to jail. The ones that do go to jail for, overwhelmingly, that do go to jail on marijuana charges usually plea down, unless you're selling a buttload of marijuana illegally. All right. They usually plea down. It's like, okay, we're not going to get you for the illegal weapon that you had in your car. We're not going to get you for the little bit of meth dust or crack dust or whatever you had in your car, but you had a bag of weed. We're gonna get you on that charge. Plus, we may add this. You're gonna have to spend a little time. Normally, when people go to jail over weed, they're pleading down to a worse crime, or from a worse crime. That's just a fact. And it just takes literally 5 minutes of research to debunk that. But 95% of Americans, including many Republicans, refuse to look that up. Now, getting back to Fani. Tap that Fani Willis. For some reason, her name is Fani to a lot of people, but I don't believe her name was Fani until recently. I think it was Fani, and then she changed it just because Fani is synonymous with booty. All right. And so I just think she, especially in light of her relationship with Nathan Wade. But again, getting back, let me just give you a review of what happened, because I think this is so important. I think it's so crucial. The right has to start fighting back against this narrative of systemic racism. And the way in which you do it is by knocking down these black privileged DAs. Notice what the left has done when it comes to the persecution of Trump. They use black DAs. They use Alvin Bragg. They use Letitia James. They use the Fani Willises. Obviously, you've got Jack Smith. He happens to be white, but that's the Biden administration using Jack Smith in order to run election interference against his opponent, Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is spending more time in the courtroom as opposed to campaigning, where Biden, who hid in the basement back in 2020, is now trying to be out campaigning while Trump is spending time in the courtroom, but it hasn't gone well for him. As a matter of fact, there are reports that Biden is really angry. Where did I see this? Let me just find this real quick. I apologize. Anyway, I saw it earlier on Real Clear Politics. There was a column where Biden is getting angry because there's nothing that he's been able to do to reverse the trends in the polling. And that's because people are feeling the effects of his policy, but apparently he's lashed out to staffers, cussed at staffers, blamed staffers, and obviously he has dementia. So that's one of the byproducts, or that's one of the symptoms, if you will, of dementia in the first place. But and then maybe when he is lucid, you have people blowing smoke up his butt. I don't know. And he's blaming them for his bad approval numbers. And he's getting frustrated because they are not improving no matter what he does. And then you get people like the radical left in places like Michigan, which is obviously a swing state that he has to be concerned about. And he's trying to appease the Muslims in Michigan while he's ignoring probably the vast majority of Americans that would say, listen, I don't necessarily like this war with Israel and Hamas, but that is their business. I do agree with Israel taking out terrorists. And as a matter of fact, again, we'll play some video for you later. But I really do believe this issue with systemic racism, the way that the right is going to be able to combat this notion of systemic racism is by talking about the black privilege that exists amongst these DAs and, quite frankly, in a lot of areas in America now. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't run across racist people. Of course you do. There's racist white people in America. There's racist Latinos in America. There's racist black people in America. Oh, blacks can't be racist because we have no institutional power. Shut up, you idiot. You don't get to determine what racism is. God gets to determine what's in your heart. He's the ultimate judge, not you. Otherwise, you'll hire some moron named Ibram X. Kendi that'll tell people that they can't be racist, all the while sending them to hell because he's teaching them how to be racist. I mean, this is just insane. And the right really needs to start pushing back against this nonsense, which is why I wanted to go ahead and lead with Fani Willis and a reminder of that Fani Willis. Now, I don't have any audio or video for you. I don't want to take all that time, but I want to bring you some headlines. But I just want to go over exactly what happened on Friday. So again, you had this Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee, hat tip to the Federalist, found that Fani Willis that she potentially lied. She cast racial aspersions on the defendant, Donald Trump. She had a tremendous lapse in judgment when it came to her affair with Nathan Wade, but nonetheless, he came to the conclusion that her crusade or her case against former president could remain in place, or she could stay on the fight on that case as long as Nathan Wade left the case. Now, riddle me this, Batman, and you've heard others say it. I mean, this isn't rocket science. How is it that Nathan Wade can't stay on the case, but Fani Willis, the woman that hired Nathan Wade, can? Just let that sink in. The judge was scared. The judge used to work under Fani Willis in her office, and the judge was scared. The judge is in Fulton County. The judge has an election coming up in just apparently a couple or a few weeks, and the judge was scared. But this is the reason black privilege is ruining the justice system. And the people that it hurts the most, it's going to be low-income minorities. That's who it's going to hurt. Ultimately. All right, so she did all of these things wrong, right? Potentially lied, cast racial aspersions on the defendant, had a serious lapse in judgment when she lied about her affair with Nathan Wade, but she gets to stay on the case. Here's a quote from the judge, when he issued the decision on Friday. He said, quote, the defendants, speaking of the Trump and his attorneys, failed to meet their burden of proving that the DA, district attorney, acquired an actual conflict of interest in this case, quote unquote. I'd love to see what some of the text messages she may have had with Nathan Wade said. Trump's argument against the persecution was this. Trump, along with Michael Roman and other co-defendants, argued that Willis had disqualified herself from prosecuting them on racketeering, which is the RICO charges, ostensibly related to the 2020 election. The reasons, or at least one of them, Roman, who's the guy that filed the original motion to dismiss the case or dismiss Fani Willis or disqualify her, was that she had allegedly financially benefited after hiring her lover, Nathan Wade. And we all know that this is true. It came out to be true, right? There's no denying this anymore. All right, so one of the reasons, again, that Roman filed the original motion to dismiss is that he felt like Fani Willis should be disqualified because she benefited from hiring her lover. And as a matter of fact, she did. So she went on these lavish vacations with Wade. We all know that now. Wade's law firm was paid, consider this, Wade's law firm was paid $650,000. All right. This isn't in the span of over 2 years, or over a 2 year span, was paid $50,000. Now, there are other prosecutors that are on the case. You know what their law firms were paid? The law firms of Anna Cross and John Floyd were each paid $100,000. A difference of over $500,000. Now, Fani Willis happened to be dating Nathan Wade Talk about all the booty calls in just a second. Happened to be dating Fani Wade. So she pays him, his law firm, $550,000 more than the other law firms who, by the way, they happen to be white. I'm just saying, $100,000. Huh. What do you call that, Gabe? Blacks wanted to, reparations. Maybe that was a part of reparations. Maybe that's why she decided to do it. But so Fani Willis traveled to places with Nathan Wade, including the Bahamas, Aruba, Belize, Napa Valley. There were more places that came out. But Willis claimed in the courtroom that she repaid Nathan Wade in cash. Obviously, there's no records of that because she paid in cash, allegedly. I don't believe her, but allegedly she did. So McAfee ruled that Willis's quote-unquote reimbursement practice, allegedly carrying cold hard cash on hand at all times in the thousands, quote, may be unusual, and the lack of any documentary corroboration understandably concerning. But still, he believed that the evidence, quote, presented did not establish receipt of a material financial benefit as a result of her decision to hire and engage in a romantic relationship with Wade, close quote. How is that even possible? You hire a dude, you pay him 550 G's more than the other prosecutors on the case. You go on lavish vacations with him that he pays for, and you pretend as if you paid him back. But really, that doesn't establish a financial receipt of benefit. Why? Because she allegedly paid him back with cash. This is insane. This is just cowardice. This is nothing more than cowardice and power, guys. Our judicial system cannot stand like this. It cannot stand. In order for our judicial system to stand inside of the United States of America, you have to have moral men and women running it. That doesn't mean that they're not going to fall. That doesn't mean that they're not going to have affairs. And that people are human. People fall. People mess up. People screw up. When it comes to the law, these people have to be by the book. They have to take their jobs seriously. They can't use their jobs as weapons to advance their own careers or, fear of making the right decisions because they won't advance their own careers, which appears to be the case with Judge Scott McAfee. So here's what happened. Willis and Wade denied allegations that their romantic relationship began prior to Wade's appointment, which would presumably create the conflict of interest in Wade's hiring. All right, this according to the Federalist. But here's what we know. There was cell phone data that was submitted by the defense that showed that Wade made at least 35 visits to the Hapeville neighborhood where Fani Willis lived before the district attorney hired him to, quote, lead, quote unquote, the prosecution of Trump. This according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So homeboy, again, the cell phone data submitted by the defense showed that Wade made at least 35 visits to the Hapeville neighborhood where Fani Willis lived. You think he was there just to discuss the court case? Wade testified he visited Willis at her condo a maximum of 10 times, so he's at least 24 times off. And that he was hired in November of 2021. Then you have Willis's former friend, Robin Brian Yearty, who told the court that, quote, there was, quote, no doubt, close quote, the couple had begun their relationship as early as 2019, which means that when Fani Willis got on the court and she was sitting there acting all ghetto fabulous and all that kind of stuff, she was just straight up lying. She was putting on a show. It was theatrics, just like I told you then. This is black privilege run amok. Judge Scott McAfee just allowed black privilege to further discredit the Fulton County court system. This is unbelievable. Yearty claimed that she witnessed both Fani and Wade hanging out, hugging and kissing the same year in 2019. The judge also donated, albeit a small amount, but $150 to Willis's campaign. Now, that might be something they just do, but even that has a look of impropriety. But he ruled He gave 150 to Willis's 2020 campaign, but he ruled that the quote prosecution is encumbered by an appearance of impropriety, close quote. Now, Judge Scott McAfee, it looks like you might be encumbered by the appearance of impropriety. Isn't that ironic? I mean, you gave the chick, you donated to her campaign, man. I mean, this stuff is insane. Here's what McAfee had to say. Another quote: "As long as Wade remains on the case, this unnecessary perception will persist." Oh, as long as Wade remains on the case, not Fani. This is insane. He says, without sufficient evidence that the district attorney acquired a personal stake in the prosecution or that her financial arrangements had any impact on the case, the defendant's claims of an actual conflict must be denied. And he goes on to say, the Judge Scott McAfee, this finding is by no means an indication that the court condones this tremendous lapse in judgment or the unprofessional manner of the district attorney's testimony during the evidentiary hearing. Nevertheless, McAfee concluded that, quote, tremendous lapse in judgment, close quote, was not enough to disqualify Willis from her highly politicized, unprecedented prosecution of a former president. It wasn't a lapse in judgment. She thought she could get away with it because she's black, she's female, and she's a leftist, and she's out to get Trump. It's as simple as that. Black, female, leftist, out to get Trump. Guess what? You can get away with crap like this, where other attorneys would likely be disbarred and perhaps even thrown in jail for lying under oath. Let's be real. All right? Let's just be real about this. It's insane. The judge went on to say, ultimately, dismissal of the indictment is not the appropriate remedy to adequately dissipate the financial cloud of impropriety and potential unfruitfulness found here. I wonder if the Biden administration called the judge. I'm just curious. I wonder where Biden's cell phone and his cell phone may have been. I'm just curious. All right. The district attorney may choose to step aside, he said, along with the whole of her office, and refer the prosecution to the prosecuting attorney's counsel for reassignment. Alternatively, SATA Wade can withdraw. All right. Now, there's a lot of people opining on this, and they're lawyers, and obviously they're more skilled in this than me because I'm not an attorney. All right. I happen to be in a courtroom an awful lot. All right, earlier in my life, but I'm not an attorney. This is where I think some of the commentariats are going wrong. You're dealing with Marxists. I mean, that cannot be overstated. You're dealing with people that really don't care about the rule of law. You're dealing with people that want to fundamentally transform the rule of law in America. And they don't care who's paying attention. They've got the power. Part of the reason why Fani Willis, part theatrics, but part actually being pissed, got on that stand because she's like, how dare you? She's been able to get away with this stuff forever. The only reason Fani Willis, in my opinion, is in the position that she's in is because of her black skin and because of what's between her legs. Because she's obviously not that bright. I mean, she may be book smart. Maybe, but I'm not even convinced of that, to be frank with you. This lady has been able to get away, be a little diva, and has been able to get away. We played the video for you before, where literally she was talking about how she can come in and give this new, kind of vibe to the Fulton County DA's office. She's not going to be sleeping with subordinates and all that kind of stuff in there. And then she's sleeping with a subordinate and probably had been already. Just a fake. But this is similar to what we saw with Robert Hur's, special counsel Robert Hur's case. Federalist reminds us, McAfee gave Willis the same treatment Joe Biden received from Robert Hur, and that is an acknowledgement of near certain wrongdoing, but a reticence to apply any real consequences. McAfee acknowledged that Willis may have, quote, testified untruthfully, close quote. So she lied, Judge. All right, so she lied on her oath in your courtroom about her relationship with Wade, but claimed there was not enough evidence to remove Willis entirely. How about she lied? If she would lie right in front of your face, Judge, in the courtroom, what else is she lying about? I mean, this is crazy. All right, so this is black privilege. It's as simple as that. Black privilege won the day. All right. And Trump derangement syndrome, if we're being honest, too, because they can't let their teeth out of Trump. This is the only way they believe they can win in 2024. They have to keep Trump engaged in this lawfare while Biden actually gets out, gets the skirt free and try and campaign. Fortunate for us, not fortunate for the country and the rest of the world, frankly, that he's a dementia patient, but that's what's going on. All right. McAfee condemned. This is black privilege at its finest. So McAfee condemned Willis's apparent attempt to chalk defendant's skepticism of her relationship with Wade up to racism. So Trump's Mike Roman, I believe the guy's name is Mike Roman, his fellow defendant, I believe was it Roman? Mike Roman? Roman. I know Roman is the name. I know Roman is the last name. So we'll just go with Roman. I don't know why I lost that note. But anyway, it is what it is. All right. So Roman, they get chalked up. The defendants. All right. So they call out Fani Willis's affair with Wade. Because they do that, they're racist. So what about her colleagues that happen to be black that called it out? You see how black privilege is destroying our justice system. All right, still the judge stopped short of saying her action warranted resource. Willis alleged during a speech at an Atlanta church in January that Republicans were, quote, playing the race card, close quote, rather than raising legitimate concerns about the impropriety of Wade's involvement in the case. Playing the race card. Here's what Willis said when she said that the defendants were playing the race card. She says, I am a little confused. I appointed 3 special counsel, which is my right to do, paid them all the same hourly rate. So she lied, right? Because we now know that she paid her boyfriend $650,000 and the other attorneys $100,000, a difference of over $500,000. All right. But she said they only attack one. Again, her quote, I'm a little confused. I appointed 3 special counsel, which is my right to do, paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attack one. So she just lied. She tried to play the race card. Oh, they're attacking the black guy. Oh, the black guy that you're sleeping with that you paid $550,000 more than you did to the other law firms, that black guy. And he gets to skate and try to play the righteous role. He said something to the effect, in the name of democracy, I'm going to stop down. In the name of destroying a democratic republic, fool. Good luck. That dude should, I'm sorry, these people should be in jail. They should be in jail. What I don't like, here's what I don't like. I will back the blue. I will back law enforcement. And in my opinion, that includes attorneys. When you abuse the system, I think you should be punished by the system. Because that's the only way you'll stop others that have this power from abusing the system. These people are granted, in my opinion, by God, a huge amount of power. And if they abuse that power, they disrupt the entire system. Our system of governance, our system of rule of law is incumbent upon people being moral in those positions. This stuff is just so upsetting. There is a case for appeal. Jenny Beth Martin, she's the honorary chairman of the Tea Party Patriots. She said this. This is her quote. It is clear to any fair-minded person that Fani Willis disqualified herself by hiring her lover to lead the Trump prosecution, abusing government funds, and then engaging in perjury and obstruction of justice during her hearing. What is Jenny Beth wrong about? What is she wrong about? That's a straight up indictment. McAfee said of that speech when she played the race card in front of her church, the speech was legally improper, quote unquote. Oh, you don't say, Judge? And he said had the quote effect of casting racial aspersions that it indicated the defendant's decision to file this pretrial motion, but nevertheless denied the defendant's motion to dismiss. Just a coward. I mean, it's as simple as that. But this leads for a strong case for appeal. Normally, defendants don't win on the case for appeal, but I suspect that'll happen in the case with Trump because this stuff is just unprecedented. It's never been tried before. You have people like Hans von Spakovsky of the Heritage Foundation, senior legal fellow there, that said because McAfee noted there was a quote-unquote cloud of impropriety surrounding the Willis's case that makes a strong case for appeal. So let's hope and pray that that's what happens. All right, let's get on to this media nonsense with the bloodbath statement. Then I got a few other headlines for you before we dismiss today. All right. So here it is. This is Nancy Pelosi. She's on Dana Bash's show on CNN, apparently, on whether Trump should receive intel briefings. This is the lady that has become buku rich, she and her husband, by literally insider trading. All right. This lady has the audacity to talk about intel briefings. But anyway, here she is, Nancy Pelosi. I'm sure she fears what will be exposed of her and her role in the January 6th riots, right? Because she had a duty to make sure that the Capitol Police were in place and well-informed, had the Capitol secured. She didn't do that. She was in charge of the U.S. Capitol Police while she was the Speaker of the House. So I'm sure she doesn't want Trump back in office for that reason. And I'm sure there's more as well. But that reason, I believe in particular. But Pelosi on whether Trump should receive intel briefings. Here's Nancy Pelosi. Let's go ahead and roll the video, por favor, Gabe.
Because he's even predicting a bloodbath. What does that mean? He's going to exact a bloodbath? There's something wrong here. How respectful I am of the American people and their goodness. But how much more do they have to see from him to understand that this isn't what our country is about? Praising Hitler.
All right. So that's Nancy Pelosi with the bloodbath hoax. All right. All of the media outrage. This is how they're campaigning. They're not going to talk about issues. They're not going to talk about the abuse of the rule of law. They're not going to talk about censorship being perpetrated against conservatives when it comes to big tech and media and so on, et cetera. They're not going to talk about that. They're the fact that they're the extremists on abortion. I wish Trump said some good things on the interview. He's waffled on the abortion issue a little bit. And I understand that he's playing politics. I wish instead of playing politics or waffling on our end or getting weak on his end, I wish he would just take the fight straight up to the left. And he did so in part on Howard Kurtz with an interview with Howard Kurtz, I believe it is, of Fox, when he talked about they're the extremists. I think he should always frame it that way. They come to him, wait a minute, we're not the extremists. They're the extremists, and straight jump to what the Democrats want to do. Just stay on offense. And Trump can do that. He's good at it when he does it. So he should just do that, in my opinion. But let me give you, this is a montage provided by Grabian. All right, a montage, just because I feel like this is a bit of a waste of time. But, we got to, I guess we got to do it just to prove what liars these people are. But I hate the fact that we're wasting time on this crap instead of talking about the economy, instead of talking about the borders. They don't want you to pay attention to the borders. By the way, there was another illegal alien that apparently killed someone in a drinking and driving incident. I forget where that occurred, but that happened over the weekend. So surely they want to stop us from talking about things like that. But let's just I just want you to understand what frauds these people are, why you should not get news from them. Let's roll the bloodbath montage, por favor, Gabe.
But as Politico.com reports tonight on the, quote, bloodbath at the RNC,
Headlines calling it a, quote, bloodbath.
Be a bloodbath. Not only is it going to be a bloodbath, but after they leave New Hampshire, it's a bloodbath on her home turf. That's really tough. Trump has left a lot of corpses in his wake. I mean, we can count the bodies.
As part of the, quote, MAGA drive to take over Maricopa County. And the headline refers to it as an impending bloodbath.
Columnist Charles Blow has a new piece for the New York Times entitled A Biden Bloodbath.
2018 midterms, you can bet that they 100% are fearing a slaughter. In fact, the word bloodbath and massacre come up frequently.
The Republican Party will be destroyed. It's going to be a bloodbath.
There's going to be a bloodbath one way or the other.
Bloodbath for Bernie Sanders.
It's been a bloodbath there, shaping up to be a bloodbath.
Head off a bloodbath in next year's crucial midterm.
Off-year elections are often a bloodbath.
This week's bloodbath for Democrats.
A bloodbath at the ballot box.
There could be a Republican bloodbath.
They'll talk about a bloodbath.
It's a bloodbath. I have to talk about you. And
It's going to be a bloodbath all day long.
Is in for a bloodbath.
Hasn't been a bloodbath on the way down.
Donald Trump bloodbath. Be a bloodbath.
Predicted to be a bloodbath.
May not be the bloodbath.
It would be a bloodbath.
More of a bloodbath.
It's going to be a bloodbath in November.
Possible Biden bloodbath.
this November. A bloodbath on Wall Street.
There's going to be a bloodbath
In Alabama into a bloodbath.
Obviously, there was a bloodbath. It was a bloodbath. We're down 800 points.
This bloodbath at Department of Homeland Security.
And it's a bloodbath today.
There was going to be this bloodbath.
Election bloodbath.
It could be a bloodbath for them.
Bloodbath, possibly.
Bloodbath that went through with the Attorney General.
Bloodbath 99 days out.
The bloodbath is going to look like
Presided over a bloodbath in the diplomatic corps.
Absolute, in my opinion, bloodbath. The Democrats are
Calling it ticket sales turned into a bloodbath.
Ticket sales for singer Taylor Swift's latest tour.
It's safe to say the fans had a bloodbath for the company after the fiasco.
All right, kudos to Gravy and doing great work there. So obviously the headlines against Trump are contextless. All right, this according to the Daily Wire. Headlines arose from Trump's speech in Ohio on Saturday, obviously less than a week after he got the threshold that he needed, the amount of delegates, 1,215, to secure the GOP presidential nomination, paving the way for the rematch between he and the dementia patient in November. My words, not theirs. Quote, here's what Trump said. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and think they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. He went on to say, let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. He went on to say, no, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. If I get elected, he says, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. So he was speaking specifically of the electric vehicles and how China has taken advantage and building these big manufacturing plants in the border or in Mexico, just over the border. Here's Trump himself in the speech. You can see or hear for yourself how the left is lying to you. You may hate the man. You may dislike the man. Listen, that's fine. He's straight up. The guy is so transparent. He's transparent to a fault. All right. In most circumstances. All right. So whether you hate him, whether you like him, disagree, whatever, the guy doesn't hide or hold back anything. So here he is. Let's go ahead and roll the video. Por favor, Gabe.
You know, Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world.
All right, so there you have it. That's Trump in context at his Ohio rally. And you really have to think about this, and I can't say this enough, and you've heard it enough on my show, but I'll say it again. Just imagine how dumb the Democrat Party knows or believes their voters are to be able to get away with what they get away with. As if they expect that their voters will never go and check online to see the entire context of what he said. You did have some liberals that admitted online, okay, guys, I mean, I'm a liberal, I'm voting for Biden, but I mean, I heard the thing in its context, that part of the speech in its context, and the guy was clearly talking about EVs. So you do have some that actually have a presence in the Democrat Party that are speaking out like, guys, this is insane, because this is going to backfire. People are getting tired of this. We don't know what it's going to be next week, right? But we know they're going to feign outreach. I mean, we know that the left is going to feign outrage next week as well. All right, so that covers that topic. Just a couple of headlines that I want to share with you before we get out of here. And again, make sure that you please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Also on all things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. And don't forget, right now, Mike Lindell, he has this passion to make sure that you have a better night's rest. After he invented the world's best pillow, he invented these Giza Dream Sheets. They're the best sheets that you're ever going to sleep on. And for a limited time, you can get a queen size set for just $59.98 or a king size set for just $10 more. These are the lowest prices in MyPillow history. So Mike and the MyPillow and MyPillow continue to be canceled by the big box stores that are a bunch of lefties, and he's being attacked by the media. So they appreciate all of your great support during these times, and they want to thank you by giving you free shipping on your entire order as well. So to get these special deals, all you have to do is go to mypillow.com and click on the radio podcast square and enter the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, or if you prefer, you can give them a call, 800-858-0263, and use the promo code Carl. You get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for $59.98 and king size for just $69.98. You will also get 60% off the original My Slippers. All right, so call 800-858 or go to mypillow.com. Again, promo code Carl for free shipping today. Here's another headline that I want to get to because I believe this is a complete and utter disgrace. And I'm just we'll play this and I'll give you my 2 cents on it. This is the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. He gives an update on the negotiations between Israel and Hamas. He also responds to Peter Hegseth of Fox News, talking to him about Chuck Schumer coming at him from the Senate floor and talking about basically America interfering in Israel's elections. Wouldn't it be amazing if the Democrats decided to interfere in Iran's elections? I mean, just stop and think about that, right? Iran is our enemy. Israel is not. Iran is using proxies, whether it's Hezbollah or whether it's Hamas, in order to try to destroy the only democracy that exists in the Middle East. And by the way, if they weren't taking care of the terrorists there, because those terrorists believe that we're the big Satan and Israel's the little Satan, when they come here, and no doubt they are crossing our southern borders, and no doubt they are flying inside of our country with the weakling that we have in the White House, we'd have to take care of all of them because eventually they would come to us. And I believe that in all sincerity. Those people, they're taking over Europe. They have every intention of taking over the United States. And thanks to people like Biden and the leaders in the Democrat Party, they may be on a pathway to do just that. But here's Netanyahu responding to Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor. Let's go ahead and roll the video. Por favor, Gabe.
Let's talk about that criticism, Mr. Prime Minister. Here's Chuck Schumer slamming you on the Senate floor on Thursday.
A new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel. People on all sides of this war are turning away from a two-state solution, including Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. I believe in his heart he has his highest priority is the security of Israel. However, I also believe Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way.
Mr. Prime Minister, he says you've got to go. Joe Biden says he liked the speech and also said your policies are hurting Israel more than helping Israel. Your response to Chuck Schumer and the president?
I think Schumer's statements are wholly inappropriate. I think we're not a banana republic. The people of Israel will choose when they'll have elections, who they'll elect, and it's not something that will be foisted upon us. That, it's wrong to try to replace the elected leaders of a sister democracy and a staunch American ally at any time, but especially during the time of war. Just imagine that after 9/11, and when you're in the midst of fighting Al-Qaeda and winning, people will say, oh, well, the right thing, some Israeli would say, oh, the right thing to do is now to have new elections in America or have President Bush resign. It's inappropriate, shouldn't have been said, it's wrong. As far as my considerations, they're not for my personal survival, they are for the survival of the Jewish state, and that requires pursuing the war. It's something my government enjoys the support of the overwhelming majority of Israelis. And let me tell you something, not only the majority of Israelis, but the majority of the American people. 82% support Israel consistently over the 5 months of the war against Hamas and not Hamas. So, I don't know why Senator Schumer made those statements. I think the only thing that we should be focused on is changing the regime in Gaza, bringing down the terrorist regime of Hamas and not the duly elected government of Israel. That's the right policy.
Well, as you know, Donald Trump is the front runner on the Republican side. He was recently asked about what Joe Biden has said on this topic. Here's what he said.
And all of a sudden, he dumped Israel. That's what he's doing. He dumped Israel.
Well, he's not walking away, but what would be in light of...
but wouldn't you say he is walking away? I mean, he just said, essentially, that Bibi Netanyahu should take a walk.
Do you feel like you're losing support, Mr. Prime Minister?
Well, I hope not. First of all, let me say that I appreciate President Trump's tremendous support for Israel when he was president.
All right. Anyway, that's Bibi Netanyahu. Two different leaders, Biden and Donald Trump and Chuck D. Schumer. And obviously, Israel is literally fighting for their for their existence. Let me give you a couple of headlines. We'll get out of here. I'll just comment on them briefly, and perhaps I'll get into some of them tomorrow. But I wanted to make sure that I made mention of them since you're tuning into the show today. And I do think they are important headlines that hit over the weekend. One, the Chicago mayor is moving ahead with plans to evict illegal aliens from shelters because it's just getting too financially crazy over there. And obviously, he's starting to speak out, and crazy left-wing radical. But his constituents are as well, and they're sick and tired of it. We've already gone over the bloodbath. Daniel Penny's lawyer is addressing the similarities that exist between his client's case and the New York City subway shooting, where obviously a man took matters into his own hands to defend other passengers on the subway train. So, man, the similarities are so striking, it's unbelievable. So it's not even funny. Then you have this suspected shooter that was apprehended after allegedly killing 3 and barricading himself inside of a home. Eventually, he was caught in a few miles away in a part of New Jersey. I believe it was Trenton, New Jersey, after escaping. But apparently allegedly he murdered his stepmother, his baby mama, and his 13-year-old sister, if I recall correctly. So thank God they've got him, and I'm sure he'll pay the full, or he will be held accountable. A couple of other big stories that I thought were just very important to mention. Did you know that Mexico had been flying literally like thousands of drones over our border? Had you heard about that? The Mexican cartels had been doing that. Where is it at on the? Give me just a second. I'm sorry. I'm looking this up. Washington Post is urging Kamala Harris to resign. She is that bad. WAPO Kathleen Parker called on VP Harris to step aside for the country's sake. In an editorial published on Friday, Parker argued that although she had hoped to see Harris thrive and shine in her position as second in command, she and many other Americans along with her had been disappointed by the vice president's actual job performance. Honestly, these people want to get rid of this chick so bad, but it just might be too late. It just might be too late. But you've heard Bill Maher even say the same thing. Colorado is may be required to create jail units for trans inmates. I wouldn't do it. I mean, this is insane. You're either a male or a female. Treat them accordingly. There is a heavy toll on children who do not attend school regularly. And obviously that's a large part due to the lockdowns, actually mostly due to the lockdowns where there's been erratic and sporadic school attendance of many more kids that aren't attending school on a regular basis, thanks to the COVID lockdowns and the Democrats. So at least they won't have as many people to brainwash. But unfortunately, a lot of these kids, when they're not in school, get into trouble. College are forcing student athletes to watch video on racism. See, this is black privilege, and this is where I think this stuff is going to backfire. People are just going to get tired of this crap if they aren't already. Davidson College alumni are calling for change after student athletes recently were required to watch the video "I'm Not Racist, Am I?", which labels all white people as racist. The Davidsonians for Freedom of Thought and Discourse, an alumni-run free speech organization, exposed and denounced the video after learning the North Carolina institution forced student athletes to watch it this semester. Notably, in one clip of the film that they uncovered is the unequivocal repetition that all white people are racist and people of color cannot cannot be racist, basically. Wow. I mean, this is just disgusting. The last thing, Air Force says, General says over 1,000 drones coming over the U.S. border each month. From the New York Post, more than 1,000 drones per month are crossing into the U.S. airspace near the border with Mexico. A top general told lawmakers on Thursday of unmanned drone incursions is, quote, alarming and presents a growing, quote unquote, potential threat to national security. Air Force General Gregory Gillett, the commander of North American Defense Command and U.S. Northern Command, said during a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing, he said, quote, the number of incursions was something that was alarming to me as I took command last month, close quote. Gillett said Mexican cartels have been using drones to track the location of authorities along the U.S.-Mexico border. And man, thank God they're not dropping bombs, right? Thank God they're just tracking authorities. I know you guys know if you're listening to this podcast, but just think of like almost every story is a ticking time bomb. This could spiral out of control so fast, it's not even funny. Oh man, guys, we got a lot of work to do. We got to win. We got to win in 2024. Listen, I understand. There's people that are frustrated out there that we have that, they don't want to deal with Trump. They don't want to deal with Biden. I get it. I understand there's people that feel that way. Here's the way that I feel. Marxists are on the march. And I think that there are times where Trump can be stronger than he was. I feel like he could have been better in his first term, but I feel like he's way, way better than Biden. And I believe it's up to us, we the people, to take advantage of his backbone to make sure we get in place the freedoms that should exist in the United States of America via legislation. I think he's learned the lesson. Hopefully he has, that executive orders are not going to work. I pray to God that he's never duped by an Anthony Fauci or a Deborah Birx again. I do believe that, listen, it doesn't seem to me that I'm just being real with you, that there's going to be much accountability on that side. That means you and I are going to have to stay vigilant to make sure that the government is never allowed to impose any type of lockdown. I don't care if it comes from a Republican like Trump. I don't care if it comes from a Democrat. The government should never be allowed to close down private businesses. That is not America. That is not what we do. And no employer or no government should be able to force you to have any injection put inside of your body. That is insane. Anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.